Welcome back to our channel, Soap fans. Today is a spectacular day to dive deep into the latest daytime drama, so let's get right into the explosive action unfolding on your screens. The silence in the corridor is the first thing that hits her. It is not the comforting quiet of a healing ward, but the suffocating heavy silence of a graveyard. Carly Spencer marches down the pristine, bleach-scented hallway of General Hospital, her heels clicking sharply against the polished linoleum. Her heart is hammering against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of maternal instinct warning her that something is terribly, catastrophically wrong. Just hours ago, the mysterious and powerful head of the WSB, known only as Z, had looked her dead in the eye and made a solemn vow. He had promised that a heavily armed, elite task force of WSB agents would guard Jocelyn's door around the clock. He had sworn that no enemy, no assassin, and no lingering threat would ever get close. But as Carly rounds the final corner, the horrifying reality sets in. The hallway is completely inexplicably empty. There are no guards. There are no tactical vests. There is no perimeter. The men who were supposed to be the ultimate shield between Jocelyn and the criminal underworld have vanished into thin air. The door to Jocelyn's room is slightly ajar, casting a thin, eerie sliver of light across the floor. Carly's breath catches in her throat. The air suddenly feels too thick to breathe. She reaches out, her hand trembling violently as her fingertips brush against the cold metal of the door handle. She pushes it open, stepping into a scene that will forever be burned into her nightmares. The room is utterly devoid of life, stripped of the protection she was promised. The sound hits her before the visual does. It is a sound no mother should ever have to hear, a sound that immediately shatters the soul into a million jagged pieces. The heart monitor beside Jocelyn's bed is not beeping with the steady, reassuring rhythm of life. Instead, it is emitting a single, continuous, high-pitched tone. A flat line. The jagged green line on the screen has gone completely, terrifyingly flat. Carly's eyes dart to the bed, and the world around her seems to stop spinning. Jocelyn is lying there, her skin ashen and pale, her chest completely still. She is not breathing. The vibrant, fiercely independent daughter, who had just survived a gunshot wound and struck a massive deal with the WSB, is now lying motionless, her life slipping away in a vulnerable room. Carly's knees instantly buckle beneath her. The designer handbag slips from her shoulder, crashing to the floor and spilling its contents across the sterile tiles, but she does not notice. A primal, guttural scream tears its way out of her throat, a sound of pure, unadulterated agony that echoes down the empty hospital corridors. It is the scream of a mother watching her worst fear materialize right in front of her eyes. She lunges toward the bed, her hands desperately grabbing Jocelyn's shoulders, shaking her, begging her to wake up. Jocelyn, look at me. Breathe. Please, baby, breathe. Carly sobs hysterically, her tears falling onto the crisp white hospital sheets. She slams her hand against the emergency call button, pressing it over and over again in panic. Within seconds, the hallway erupts into chaos. A team of doctors and nurses sprints through the door, their faces tight with professional urgency. They swarm the bed, physically pulling a hysterical Carly away from her daughter. Code Blue. We have a Code Blue, a doctor shouts, barking orders as a nurse rushes in with a crash cart. The room becomes a blur of frantic motion, shouting voices, and the terrifying sound of tearing medical packaging. Carly is pushed against the far wall, her hands covering her mouth, as she watches the medical team begin chest compression. The sickening crunch of CPR, the frantic charging of the defibrillator paddles, the sharp command to stand clear. Jocelyn's body jolts violently off the mattress, but the monitor continues its relentless flatline. As the doctors fight to pull Jocelyn back from the brink of death, the reality of the situation crashes down on Carly with the force of a freight train. This was not a medical complication. This was not a natural failure of a healing body. This was a hit. Someone had slipped into this room and silenced her daughter, and they had only been able to do it because the WSB guards were gone. Z had promised her an impenetrable fortress, a wall of federal agents that no one could breach. But the room was empty. The hallway was abandoned. The agents had been pulled. The realization ignites a fire in Carly's blood, transforming her crippling grief into a blinding, scorching rage. Z had intentionally withdrawn his forces. He had deliberately left the door wide open for the enemy to strike. The doors to the intensive care unit swing open again, but this time it is not another doctor. It is Z. The enigmatic, calculating head of the WSB steps into the room, his tailored suit perfectly pressed, his expression completely unreadable as he takes in the chaos of the resuscitation effort. He looks at the flatlining monitor, then at the frantic doctors, and finally at Carly. But if he expects to find a broken weeping mother, he is gravely mistaken. Carly Spencer pushes off the wall, her eyes burning with a lethal, venomous hatred that could melt steel. She does not just walk toward him, she stalks him, closing the distance between them with the predatory grace of a lioness protecting her cub. She shoves her finger hard into the center of his chest, her voice a lethal whisper. "You did this," Carly snarls, her voice trembling with an explosive mixture of fury and despair. "You looked me in the eye, and you promised me she was safe. You promised me a task force. You promised me that the entire weight of the WSB was standing between my daughter and the monsters who want her dead. But you pulled your guards, you cleared the hallway, and you let them walk right in here and kill her." Z attempts to maintain his stoic composure, raising a hand to calm her down, but Carly slaps it away with vicious force. "Do not touch me. Do not try to spin this into some bureaucratic lie. You deliberately withdrew your troops. You used my daughter as bait, or you decided she was a loose end. You gave the enemy the opening, and now my little girl is dying." Z opens his mouth to offer a calculated defense, to speak of operational shifts and unforeseen security breaches, but Carly refuses to let him utter a single syllable. "Listen to me very carefully," she hisses, stepping so close that he can feel the heat of her rage. "If that monitor does not start beeping again, if my daughter does not walk out of this hospital alive, I am going to destroy you. I am not going to hire a lawyer. I am not going to file a grievance. I am going to use every single resource, every dollar, and every connection the Corinthos family possesses to burn you and your entire corrupt agency to the ground. I will dismantle the WSB piece by piece. I will expose every dirty secret and every drop of blood on your hands. You will not have a hole deep enough to hide." The sheer magnitude of Carly's threat hangs in the air, a heavy, suffocating promise of absolute annihilation. She is not just a grieving mother, she is the matriarch of a criminal empire, a woman who has survived mob wars, kidnappings, and international conspiracies. She knows where the bodies are buried, and she knows how to dig them up. Z stares at her, a flicker of genuine apprehension finally breaking through his icy facade. He realizes, perhaps for the first time, the catastrophic mistake he has made. He has unleashed a force of nature that cannot be reasoned with, bought off, or intimidated. Carly's eyes are locked onto his, conveying a terrifying truth. She is entirely prepared to watch the world burn if it means avenging the child lying lifeless on the hospital bed. Before Z can formulate a response to the impending war, Carly has just declared, the atmosphere in the room shifts drastically. The temperature seems to drop 10 degrees as a dark, imposing shadow falls across the doorway. Sonny Corinthos has arrived. The legendary mob boss of Port Charles steps into the room, his presence immediately commanding the attention of everyone not actively trying to restart Jocelyn's heart. Sonny's dark eyes sweep the scene in a fraction of a second, taking in the empty hallway, the frantic medical team, the flatlining monitor, and finally, the fierce standoff between his ex-wife and the head of the WSB. His face hardens into a mask of pure, lethal calculation. The mob boss instincts that have kept him alive for decades instantly take over, assessing targets. Sonny moves to Carly's side, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder, but his eyes remain locked on Z. "What happened here?" Sonny demands, his voice dangerously low, lacking any trace of panic, but overflowing with lethal intent. Carly does not look away from Z as she answers. "He pulled the guards, Sonny. He promised us a WSB perimeter, and he pulled them. He left the floor completely empty. Someone walked in here and stopped our daughter's heart, and they did it because he gave them the green light." Sonny's grip on Carly's shoulder tightens, his jaw clenching as the reality of the betrayal sinks in. He steps in front of Carly, placing himself directly in Z's personal space. The mob boss does not yell, he does not scream. He delivers a promise of absolute, chilling violence. "If you played a part in this," Sonny tells Z, his voice a gravelly whisper, "there isn't a federal badge in the world that is going to save you. You just brought a war to my city, to my family. And in my city, I am the one who decides who lives and who dies. But as the medical team continues their desperate battle to save Jocelyn, a new, volatile tension begins to fracture the united front of the grieving parents. Carly spins around to face Sonny, adrenaline making her reckless. "We don't wait, Sonny. We take him down right now. We hit every WSB safe house in this city until he bleeds out." Carly's demand for immediate, explosive retaliation is a raw scream for vengeance. But Sonny shakes his head, his mind already working 10 steps ahead. "No, Carly. We do this my way." Untraceable. The disagreement instantly escalates into a bitter, devastating clash of wills. "Your way takes too long!" Carly screams, her voice cracking with desperation as the defibrillator whines and fires again behind them. "My daughter is dying right now!" "I am not going to sit around and wait for your informants to gather intel while the man who set her up walks right out the front door. If you won't unleash hell on him right this second, I will do it myself." The tension between them is electric, a collision of Carly's fiery, impulsive wrath and Sonny's cold, calculated mob strategy. They are both drowning in the exact same grief, but their methods of survival are fundamentally opposed. The fracture in their relationship deepens with every passing second, a massive casualty of this shadowy war. The sprawling conspiracy has finally breached the walls of General Hospital, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Who actually ordered the hit on Jocelyn Jacks? Was it a lingering loyalist of the deceased Ross Cullum, seeking revenge for his downfall on Spoon Island? Was it a desperate play by the fugitive Jen Sidwell, trying to eliminate a key witness to the WSB's corruption? Or is it exactly what Carly suspects? A deliberate, calculated move by Z himself to tie up a loose end that knew too much about the agency's darkest secrets. The medical team works frantically, the monitor continuing its terrifying, high-pitched scream as Jocelyn's fate hangs precariously in the balance. The impending fallout threatens to scorch the earth of Port Charles, leaving no survivors in its path. The stakes have never been higher, and the battle lines have been drawn in blood. If Jocelyn does not survive this brutal assassination attempt, the war between the Corinthos Empire and the World Security Bureau will be catastrophic. Will the doctors be able to pull Jocelyn back from the absolute brink of death, or has the WSB's betrayal already claimed its ultimate victim? Will Carly's reckless thirst for immediate vengeance destroy her relationship with Sonny, or will the legendary mob boss finally unleash the full, terrifying might of his organization against the federal government? The guards have vanished, the promises have been broken, and the clock is ticking down to zero. Who will pay the ultimate price for this unforgivable betrayal, and who will be left standing in the ashes?